Cool. So yeah, happy to see so many people joining. We'll be starting in 1 minute, just to wait for some more people. Okay, thank you again for joining this second Oasis Community Town Hall. So really excited to see so many of you joining the Town Hall. Okay, so let's start. First, let's briefly look at the agenda. So we have a lot of exciting things to cover today. Maybe you can switch to next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, one thing. So feel free to post any questions you have for the team in the Q&A box that you have in the Zoom room during the presentations, and we'll have a brief Q&A session at the end to answer any questions. Okay, so let's just kick it off and pass the mic to our amazing Don Song.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second community town hall. I'm really excited to be here talking with everyone. And so at the beginning of this community town hall, we'll do some research updates. So first, as many of you may recall, so Oasis has a unique novel scaling architecture utilizing what we call paradigm architecture, where we separate execution from consensus. So the architecture has, unlike the traditional blockchain architecture, which bundles everything together, bundles consensus and execution all together, which makes it much harder to scale. In the Oasis paradigm architecture, we have separate layers. We have the consensus layer, where the validated nodes does the consensus reach agreement. And also we have the separate execution layer, which is called the paradigm layer, where we can run different paradigms, which are the isolated execution environments concurrently. And each paradigm environment can also essentially run different types of paradigms, including EVM compatible paradigms, and also confidential paradigm, and other types of paradigms. And with this separation of execution from consensus, it makes the architecture much more modular. It's a modern modular architecture, and make it much easier to be extensible and with much greater scalability. So let's go to the next slide. So recently, in collaboration with also other researchers from the industry, for example, at Infura, we have actually written 2 recent papers to particularly highlight the advantage of architecture, the scaling architecture like Oasis platform, and also to systematically explore the design space of what's the best scaling architecture for blockchain. Some of you may have heard about, for example, recently, there is also a lot of excitement in rollups and as a layer 2 solution, for example, for Ethereum and so on. So our recent paper also illustrates how the Oasis platform's architecture essentially can be viewed as a layer 1 solution, a layer 1 blockchain with native support for rollup. So for example, for Ethereum, the rollup solutions can essentially are afterthought which are added to solve the scalability issues in Ethereum. Whereas for the Oasis architecture, from the very beginning, when we started in 2018, from the very beginning, the design was designed to be scalable with this scaling architecture that actually have native support for rollup as a layer 1. So Oasis is the first and only layer 1 blockchain that has native support for rollup, essentially. And the community now actually calls this approach bare metal fraud proof. Essentially, meaning the Oasis architecture has this bare metal layer 1 native support for fraud proof and rollup. And these papers will be released online soon. And if you are interested, please feel free to check it out. And these papers really illustrate one, systematically how we think about scaling issues in blockchain, what's the ideal design space and design solutions for scaling for layer 1, and also identifies the salient advantages of Oasis platform's advantages. And in particular, in contrast to other solutions for the traditional blockchains. Next slide, please. In addition to the research updates, recently we have been teaching a new class called DeFi MOOC, together with a few other professors, instructors at other universities. The DeFi MOOC class is a free online course available for everyone interested in learning about decentralized finance. It's the first DeFi MOOC class and goes into depth to study a broad spectrum of different topics in DeFi, including decentralized exchange, on-chain lending, stablecoins, synthetics, derivatives, and many other really exciting and important topics in the space, and also including DeFi security and privacy and so on. And just like the spirit of blockchain and DeFi, it's designed to be open and inclusive. As I mentioned, anyone can take it for free. And currently we have thousands of students over 30 countries all over the world. And the first 6 lectures already have, I think, over 20,000 views. And students are really excited about the class. And also there's a Discord for the DeFi MOOC that has over 2,000 members already. And also students will get NFTs after the course completion. So I think if you are interested in the space, this is a great resource and also a great community for you to join. You can find out more information and also join the class at defi-learning.org. So check it out, and it'll be great if you can join us to learn more about the topics, and we love to have you in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn, for your nice presentation and research updates. I think it's really important to highlight all the advantages of our architecture. I think so far we have been quite humble. Okay, so next we'll touch the status of the Oasis networks, starting with some highlights of the past few months. So next slide. Okay, so in August, we've done a successful consensus layer upgrade. And the nice thing about it is that it was the first upgrade that was coordinated through on-chain governance. So it was the first test of proper decentralized governance. And the really amazing thing was the voting participation, which was basically over 86% of the validator entities by stake. Which shows that the community is really excited to see new features being rolled out. The other important milestone was the successful launch of the first SGX-enabled paradigm. This is the Cypher paradigm. This happened on testnet with more than 35 independent node operators participating in running nodes. And this was basically the first step towards general confidential computation and further steps soon to follow. The third really important thing was also a very successful outcome of our grants program, where we've launched not only one, but two Oasis first wallets, and we'll hear more about that in just a bit. Okay, next slide. We've also been quite hard at work on the engineering front, aiming to deliver the necessary functionality for our further plans. So as announced in the previous town hall, we've successfully finished the initial version of the WebAssembly-based smart contracts module that can run inside SGX enclaves. And with the recent Cypher paradigm upgrade on testnet, we've also deployed this module to testnet, and there it will be subject to further testing and development, focusing more on high-level tools and documentation to make the developer experience nicer. So if anyone feels ambitious, they can try it out on the testnet. And of course, being a module for the Oasis SDK, this basically means that any paradigm can now enable smart contract functionality through just including the WebAssembly module. Another thing that we did, focusing more on confidentiality, is adding support for encrypted call formats, which basically enable confidential paradigm transactions. So this is based on ephemeral key pairs that are negotiated between the client and the paradigm in a way that the client can use the ephemeral key pair to encrypt transactions so that they can only be decrypted inside the SGX enclave of the paradigm. And of course, a confidential paradigm needs to deal with a much stronger threat model. So it's really important that we make sure the integrity of state is ensured before processing any transactions. So to this end, we've made the SDK transparently support specifying a consensus layer trust root, which is used basically to ensure integrity of all consensus layer state, and by extension, also the integrity of paradigm state. And this even in the presence of local attackers. So not even the node operators can interfere with the state. And breaking that would basically require compromising more than 2/3 of the consensus layer validator set. Right. So this is both of these are important steps towards ensuring secure confidentiality, because confidentiality is hard, and you can only make one wrong step and disclose all the data. So we must make sure that everything is done properly. Right, and in addition to the WebAssembly-based smart contracts module that we've already mentioned, we have also in parallel been working on independently supporting interoperability with EVM. So to this end, we've developed a new module for the Oasis SDK that allows hosting of EVM accounts and, of course, EVM-based smart contracts. Currently, a Web3 gateway that will enable basically any legacy Ethereum application to easily interact with a paradigm is in development and should be available soon on the testnet. And this last part brings us to the roadmap for the quarter. So next slide, please. Okay, so we have a few things. The first one is making sure that we launch an initial version of the Cypher paradigm on Mainnet finally, and this is planned to happen later this month. And then November should see the launch of two paradigms. The first one is Parcel, which we'll hear more about in a bit. And the second one is the brand new EVM compatible paradigm, which will be built around the newly developed EVM module that I've just mentioned. So the paradigm will focus on DeFi and will be the host of the cross-chain wormhole bridge that will enable asset transfer to multiple other chains that are already part of the wormhole bridge ecosystem. Then in December, we should see the launch of a DEX and the lending protocol dApps in the all hosted on the EVM paradigm. Then for next quarter, can we switch to the next slide? We should see the launch of the WebAssembly confidential smart contract module on the Cypher mainnet, together with some privacy-preserving DeFi apps. We're also planning further growth of the DeFi dApps in the EVM paradigm and the general availability of the data tokenization feature on Parcel. Right, so lots of exciting things coming in this next few months, and we're also making sure that our efforts are well covered by the various press outlets. So next, today we'll present the Oasis Wallets.
Yeah, thank you, Renee. Yeah, I'm really excited to tell you more about the Oasis Wallets we launched in September. The next slide. As mentioned, we launched Oasis' first official non-custodial wallets, and we actually launched two variants. So you can choose between the web variant, which is conveniently hosted at wallet.oasisprotocol.org, or the browser extension, which you can download and install through the Chrome Web Store. John will be pasting the link in Zoom or on Telegram. So yeah, just hit the link, install it, and enjoy. I want to give a big shout out to the Rose Bloom Grants grantees that helped develop this wallet. So for the web wallet, we had Tristan Fourier, also known as Asia, making a lot of the work and doing a great job. He's also one of the node operators. And for the browser extension, I want to give a big shout out to BitCat, the famous BitCat that also powers the Oasis Scan block explorer. So their team helped develop the browser extension. And yeah, both wallets offer you the core functionality, which is like to send, receive Rose tokens. You have the convenient QR codes, which you can use to share. You know, like a friend comes by, can scan the QR code and send you some Rose, or vice versa, of course. And both offer you the staking option. So basically, you can see the list of validators and choose to which one to delegate your Rose. So you can support the security of the network by, delegating, and also in return you get the nice yields that we have. But that's not only it. We also have the ability to use multiple Rose accounts. So you have the freedom to not have everything in just one account. But you can use just a single mnemonic, so you don't need to store many passwords or private keys or whatever. You can only have this single mnemonic to restore all the accounts. Next slide, please. Yeah, and not only that, so we also listen to the community. So you can use both the web wallet and the browser extension wallet as a interface to your Ledger hardware wallet. Yeah, somebody just showed how you can download the extension from the Chrome Web Store, which is nice. Yeah, you can connect your Ledger hardware wallet, and you can be assured that your private key is safely stored on your Ledger, and have a nice UI to interact with. And also, like for the extra customizability, you can also import just any Rose account by its private key. We also ensure that like you're not locked in. So we developed a standard for Oasis hierarchical key derivation. So that means that if you have the mnemonic and you use the same mnemonic, you can easily switch between the compatible wallets. Initially, the web wallet and the browser extension wallet. Yeah, you're free to jump to the other one and vice versa. And both, of course, offer you the convenience of Block Explorer, so like transaction history, see where the money went, and so on. But I think like a screenshot tell you more than words. So let's switch to the next slide. So we'll see it in action. Yeah, so this is the dashboard, the overview you get when you open the Oasis web wallet. So you can see you have a nice overview of your total balance, and then you can see how much of that is available and how much of that is staked or going through the debonding period. So when you unstake, it takes approximately 14 days, the equivalent amount of epochs to reclaim your rows. That is, of course, for the security of the Oasis network. And you can see the transaction history, so like how much you received, what you delegated. Conveniently, you also have the option to just enter the address and the amount, and you are able to send rows to whoever you want to send them to. On the top right, you can see like you have the switcher between the networks, so the testnet and the mainnet. And right next to that button, you can see you have the account switcher, so you can easily switch between multiple accounts. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see how the delegations looks like. So here, this account has 4 active delegations. You can see the validator name if they registered in the entity metadata registry, which Everstake and BitCat have. You can see the icon which shows the validator status. So like the first 3 are active and the second one is not active. You see the delegate amount and the commission, so the fee that the validator is charging you. So the percentage of the staking rewards the validators are taking. So yeah, they can vary, and for this last validator, the fee is actually unknown. Yeah, and if we would switch to the staking tab, we would see the list of all validators sorted by their stake amounts or their voting power, and you would easily be able to stake to a new delegator. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see how the extension wallet looks like. Yeah, so the interaction here is you pin the wallet in your Chrome toolbar, and then you click on the icon, and like this overlay opens. The overview gives you like your account name, the address, again, the total available, and like active and debonding delegations. You can also like easily send and receive. If you would click receive, then you would get the QR code again, so you can scan that code and send tokens away. The thing in the top right is actually a account avatar, which is computed from the address. So it's a deterministic function, which means like wherever you open an account with the same address, you'll see the same avatar. And on the next screen, you can see like if you click on send, you can choose the amount. It conveniently shows you the available balance in the top right. And then, yeah, you can choose the address where to send the tokens to. If you click on the avatar icon, you would see the thing shown on the right, which is like the account management tab, and it allows you to choose switch between different accounts. So here I have the main account and the ledger main account, which is like, you see the orange badge here indicating that it's not connected to the mnemonic, but to the ledger, so imported from ledger. And if we go to the next screen, we'll see how you can actually delegate. So the flow, next slide, please. Yeah, so the flow is, you can see your active delegations under My Delegations tab. Conveniently see the amount you have available for staking. So we have almost 500 available. And by clicking on the Validators tab, you see the validators, how many people delegate to them. Like for staking fund, we see like we have 499 delegators, and the total delegated amount, you can see their commission. And if you click, for example, on Simply Staking, you'll be able to see how much of that is like self-delegation, how much is other delegations. And once you're satisfied with your selection, you click Delegate, and off you go. You sign the transaction, and you've delegated to a validator. So just to end this, both wallets are open source. We really welcome the contributors. If you want to see it translated in your native tongue, just open a pull request. We'll take a look, and I hope to see these wallets really thrive and available in all these different languages that represent our communities. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Today, for this nice overview of the Oasis wallets. Right, so next we have Vishwa talk about the general availability of Parcel and the upcoming data tokenization features. Vishwa, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jarne, and very excited, folks, to talk about Parcel and tokenization. Next slide, please. So what is Oasis Parcel? So Parcel is an easy-to-use confidential paradigm for data sovereignty that ensures privacy and confidentiality of data at rest, in transit, and most importantly, in use with every data access auditable on a public ledger. So Parcel is a product that we've been building for the last year plus, and we are very excited with the progress that we've made so far, the partners that we've been able to get, as you'll see in subsequent slides. Next slide, please. So Parcel enables responsible data use. So how does Parcel achieve this? By having 4 interesting and important properties. First thing, you can protect data, maintain it confidential at rest and in transit. And also the nodes that maintain this data have full regulatory compliance. So which means that you can protect and comply using Parcel. The next thing is governance. How do you govern using Parcel? By specifying policies on the way in which the data can actually be used. So which means that data managers have tight control over the way in which sensitive data is operated upon by analysis programs. The third attribute of Parcel is analysis using secure computing technologies, because storing data confidentially is one thing, transporting it confidentially is the other. But most importantly, we also want to make sure that we use confidentiality in use, right? Which is one of the things that Parcel brings to the table. So even when encrypted, the data can be pulled, analyzed, or shared without revealing the raw data to any personnel. Only analysis programs get access to this data within confidential execution environments. And finally, we have the audit capability of Parcel that can be made use of to understand what transactions have operated upon data and how the data was accessed, what programs actually used that data for what purposes, and so on and so forth. So given these 4, the key takeaways are Parcel enables you to protect, to govern, to analyze, and to audit. And given these properties, we can enable data sovereignty, where data owners and data consumers can come together and interact in ecosystems where data can be monetized freely, as you'll see in the next few slides. Next slide, please. So the current state of Parcel general availability is going to launch as a paradigm on Mainnet early Q4. The key features here include tokenization APIs, which we will talk about in the next 2 slides. And then we have support for structured data. So from the very beginning for Parcel, for us, it's been important to support developers bring data that's not just documents, blobs of bytes, but also expand it so that we can have data that can be in databases, for example, in tables that can be queried using SQL. So this is the first of its kind where we have structured data support on a blockchain backed by a blockchain. Updates, of course, coming up in the portal, metering for app developers to figure out how their end users are engaging with their applications. And finally, we also have a number of changes that are coming up in our compute workers to provide support for pools of workers, long-running jobs, and so on and so forth. So the marketing announcements around this should happen in the middle of Q4. And ongoing, we have video tutorials, we have partner spotlights, In fact, you'll hear from one of our partners soon, and we have continual outreach, of course. Next slide, please. So what is tokenization? If you really think about it, data is a non-fungible asset that is owned by individuals or corporations. And then there are consumers of data that want to get access to this data. Given what we said earlier about the properties of Parcel, it really enables us to realize this vision that we've had for enabling data owners to monetize their data, which pretty much started when the company started 3 years ago. And so the tokenization engine is our response to that need. So data-backed NFTs are the ones that are enabled by tokenization. So what you can think of achieving using this capability is that you have a piece of data, you can define policies around the data, and you can put these two things together. And this then can be thought of as a data capsule. So you have data, you have policies that dictate how the data can be used, by which identities, for what purposes, using what kinds of analysis programs, and so on. So once you put this together, this data capsule can then be tokenized. And what that means is you can issue data-backed tokens that represent documents, images, movies, royalties, and so on. And once you've tokenized this, this can participate in an ecosystem. It can participate in a marketplace where consumers who own a token for a particular piece of data, for a data capsule, can then run analysis programs which are within the constraints or the bounds that have been specified by the data owners. So which means you can have encrypted data that is attached with metadata to these tokens, and then they can be kept private when you run your analysis on them. And this really enables these ecosystems, right? So tokens are compatible finally with the ecosystem standards, the ERC20, and so on. And using this, we are enabling developers to be able to build marketplaces that bring together data providers and data consumers in ways that are fairly unprecedented in our opinion. Next slide, please. So here we chat a bit about select engagements. We are working with a large number of partners and also a couple of Fortune 500 partners. But amongst the ones that we want to highlight today, we have Auth3, which is a data marketplace backed by Parcel tokenization, and support for data-backed tokens, where sellers tokenize their data and buyers can actually buy these tokens so that they can run their computation with all of the various things that we spoke about earlier: auditability, confidentiality, and use. Castelliz, you'll hear from Castelliz soon, is a platform for data sharing between businesses. So it's a business-to-business kind of use case where they support very fascinating use cases such as confidential matching of patients for pharmaceuticals. This is for clinical trials. Genetica is a company that is using Parcel to store and process genotypic and phenotypic information to provide their customers with insights into their health. So they are focused on Asian populations at this point. Nebula Genomics has been an early customer of Parcel. So together with Ecoin NFT and Oasis Labs, Nebula sold the first fully sequenced genome of Professor George Church, an early pioneer in genomics. In fact, there are two firsts over here, folks, because Professor George Church's genome was amongst the first to be sequenced. And this is the first time that a fully sequenced genome has been made available or sold as an NFT. So put these two things together, it's quite a fascinating application of the underlying technologies that we bring to the table. Bitmark is a company that's building a platform for users to own and manage their data. They launched Feral File, which has become viral. It's become extremely popular. The first platform where code actually supports NFT art. So you can have parameterizable code where based on the values that you pick for the parameters, it'll generate art. And then you have artists coming together, forming consortiums, participating in exhibitions, and then they can sell limited editions of their works on Feral File. And Rui Health has been an early partner of ours. They've been working on health management applications, allowing users with chronic high blood pressure to stay healthy while saving time and money. So these are select partnerships that we wanted to highlight today. There are a lot more interesting things. You can, of course, follow us. You can go to our blog posts and also all of the collateral that we generate periodically to see where we are with all of our partnerships. Next slide, please. Yes, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mahmoud, who is the CEO of Castelliz. Castelliz and Oasis have been working together for the last year or so, and they have been an early partner, and they have some amazing things to talk about. Mahmoud, it's all yours.
Thank you, Vishwa. So hello, guys. My name is Mahmoud. I'm the CEO of Castelliz. I'm excited today to give you all a quick introduction about Castelliz, what we are building, and how we use Parcel to help organizations unlock the full potential behind their data. Data protection in use has been always an interesting area for us at Castelliz, and somewhere along late 2019. We came across the work Oasis were doing, so it was a great signal for us that we needed to collaborate. So let's start. Next slide, please. Great. So spending a few seconds here just to give the macro view or to give some context about the current status of the data industry. From a supply and demand perspective, from one side, we see a huge amount of data being created around the clock from businesses, private or public organizations. And from the other sides, also a significant growth in terms of demand for this data, especially from the AI industry or the data analytics tool, etc. Examining the big promise claimed by the data industry, we see a huge gap between the potential value that can be unlocked and the actual value being derived. So the main problem here is that we lack a proper data sharing infrastructure that addresses pain points of both the supply and demand side. So the question is how to solve this, how to bridge this gap. And this is why exactly we have built Castalize. Next, please. So in a nutshell, what is Castalize? Castalize is a privacy-first data platform that helps organizations, businesses to set up their own data marketplaces and securely collaborate with other parties in the cloud. On Castalize, organizations can build something we call data products, which will allow them to derive insights and also to monetize their data assets. Next, please. So how does that actually work? The main unit of value on top of Castalize platform is something we call a data product. This is a tokenized set of instruction packaged under a single asset. To simplify it, you have your data asset. This could be a data set or a model. On top of it, the permitted type of computation that can run on this data asset. And finally, a layer of access policy, which instructs around who and how this data product can be consumed. Next. So the goal here is to lay a foundation for towards the next generation data economy, where a safe data monetization is enabled through both technology from one side and digital stewardship from the other side. That's why we've built Castalize with focus on merging both scalability and a collaborative environment, all of this under a privacy-preserving umbrella. Next slide, please. So I know many of you, part of the Oasis community members, are quite interested by this specific point. So what does that mean for Parcel? Actually, Parcel is the core engine powering the Castalize platform, providing the privacy and confidentiality guarantees through the trusted execution environment and the blockchain consensus layer. The way Castalize platform was built will provide an easy onboarding process for businesses that could sometimes lack the proper skills to build their own privacy-preserving data sharing tools. By that, making the power of Parcel more accessible for more B2B adoption. So here, the bottom line being more accessibility and ease of use means more widespread adoption, which will result in an exponential growth of businesses or cluster of businesses transacting on top of the Oasis network. Next slide, please. So now we're gonna rush through a quick use case so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Just to give a bit of context of this use case, this is one of the first POCs we did for the pharma sector. From one side, the pharma company had a lot of data, a wealth of data related to kidney renal failures. And from the other side, a research group had built an AI predictive tool, and they wanted to enhance the accuracy of this model in order to maybe potentially in the future to commercialize it. Obviously, both sides are incentivized to collaborate, but at the same time, neither side is excited to expose their data to the other, especially given the privacy concerns and the risk of losing data integrity. So let's sign in into Castleize and see how it goes. Next slide, please. So as soon as you sign in into the platform, you can see your dashboard alongside a side menu. We can check all the features. You can see here that the platform recognizes collaboration between different connections. There's the direct message features, different connections, members, organization members, etc. So next slide, please. Before connecting any data to the platform, users will have to sign in with Oasis and grant Castleize permission to manage the data. This permission can be revoked at any time, at any point in time, giving by that users full control over their data rights. Next, please. So after granting access, you can connect your data to the platform. Data could be from different sources and in different formats. And we're always building more and more data connectors and exporting tools. Next. So now we're good. We signed in and we grant access through Oasis Steward app. We connect our data. So let's start by building our data product. From this side, I'm working from the perspective of the pharma company. I've decided to build a data product around a data set. And now you can see that it is a very simple process. I'm going to start by describing the data product I'm building, give it a name, some information, the terms of use, etc. Next. Now I've moved to add my input data. In this case, this could be a CSV file I already uploaded to the platform. Next. Now, we're going to define the permitted type of computation. For this use case, I'm going to choose the custom script. After reviewing everything and everything checks out, I can now publish my data product. For the sake of this use case, we're not going to assign any fee for the consumption of this data product, but also the platform recognizes this feature. Next. Now that my data product has been published, I can now send an invitation over to my friend Jack at the research center to let him access this data product. So now we can see Jack's screen in dark mode. Since he's gotten an invitation from Big Pharma Co., now he can see the data product he has access to under their data marketplace. Jack can now press on the data product, see some information, check the data structure, any type of information, again, be assigned by the data product owner regarding terms and conditions and the use cases that this data product can be used on. Jack now will go to the Run tab, set up the computation he wants to run on that data product, which in this case is a training script for his ML tool. After hitting the run job, all the relevant data, access policies, and data product alongside Jake's tool are now in Parcel, and computation is taking place within this trusted execution environment. After the job is successfully run, Jack can now has access to the end result as permitted by the access policy granted by the data product owner, and can now download his trained model. So as a quick recap, Jack from the research center was able to train his model on previously inaccessible data, enhancing by that the accuracy of this model and potentially unlocking innovation. All of this while preserving the integrity and confidentiality of Big Pharma's sensitive data. So that's it, guys. Thank you for that. I'd be happy to answer any questions during the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mahmoud, for this wonderful presentation. So up next, Akin will present an overview of the Oasis partnerships ecosystem and the upcoming Accelerator programs. Akin, here you go.
Thank you, Yarnay. Can we get the next slide, please? Yeah, so I think, as most of the participants here know, we have a pretty nice partnership ecosystem. We have some big names. We have a lot of known projects already in the works. And the next focus for us will be to figure out how do we onboard the small teams but in larger numbers. So how can we find the new and ambitious teams that want to become the flagship developers in Oasis network? And how do we find the kind of support structures that we need to give those teams to really succeed? So let's go over that a bit. Next slide, please. So we've kind of divided this process of helping these teams grow into the Oasis network into a few different components. So the first component would be to source the projects. So what we have done and will continue to do is to partner together with a number of accelerators and companies is operating in this space to access their network and mutually collaborate in bringing the right teams into the network. And this, integrating these teams will require a lot of support from our side to give to those to the startups, basically. So this requires things like engineering support and a number of community engagement things. So we have an amazing marketing team that is going to help bring these teams in front of our audience and in front of the larger, broader audience, so that they will have a fair opportunity when we're going to the larger blockchain ecosystem. And then on the community engagement side, as mentioned, we have marketing support, and we're also going to include support for airdrops. And we are going to launch in Q4 a launchpad, which is a super exciting thing, as it allows the Oasis community and Rose holders to basically go and pledge their Rose tokens for a project that they really find interesting and see a lot of potential for. So the participants who go and pledge their tokens for any of the projects that are launching in the platform, they will get the launching projects tokens in return after the pledging period is done. So that's going to be super exciting, and I think it's a proven concept already in a lot of the other blockchain ecosystems. And then finally, we understand that it's not enough only to find the right projects and help them to integrate, and then also help our community and the broader blockchain community to get access to those projects. But those projects also, of course, will need to scale up. They will need to get more staff, and they will need to become like let's say more scaled up projects. So for that, we're finding different ways to let's say source capital. And there will be more about this in the future, but roughly this means raising ecosystem fund, one or more, and then finding the right type of strategic advice to give to those companies so that they have a strong position in the market. Can we get to the next slide, please? Yeah, so we have over the summer, we've decided to collaborate with 3 different partners in this area. So we're going to have 3 different accelerator collaborations. And MetaMind Labs, I'm actually going to let Alex and Nassim from there to explain more. But to mention the other 2, we've partnered up with DAppRadar, which is the leading DeFi kind of DeFi application explorer in the market, which indexes and gives information on thousands of dApps across multiple, I think 10 or 20 different blockchains. And also we have an ongoing sponsorship together with Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator, which shows us some of the most innovative and coolest projects, which some of them have become very large in this space. And we'll be continuing and deepening our collaboration with them in the future. But so next, I'll give Alex, who is the program director at MetaMind Labs, to give a slight overview of what's going on, and also to Nassim, who is a partner at Eterna Capital and one of the founders of MetaMind Labs. So please, guys, take it away.
Fantastic. Is there a slide from that? Fantastic. Great. Next slide, please. Hello, everyone. So this is really exciting news, I think, both for us and Oasis. It's an amazing initiative. We think we'd like to get you all involved. So much like a few of you might be familiar with initiatives like Mass Challenge or Techstars, Very much maybe not your typical accelerator program, but a structured series of workshops of support, as you might imagine. So we're inviting around 10 or 11 teams, so it is fairly selective. And over those 3 months, putting them through these series of workshops that include things like business model design, testing your commercials, testing your kind of productivity, everything from like legals, SEO, growth hacking, pitch training, and how to raise investment. That's kind of typically what you might get in a usual accelerator, as good as they can be. What makes this a lot different is this driving adoption and kind of interoperability in the Oasis network. So not only that, you get very technical office hours with the Oasis team itself about how to integrate with the technology, or to use Parcel, or to explore any of the other functionalities, but it'll also give you access to kind of successful entrepreneurs who have already built on Oasis. You just heard an example from one of them. In addition to that, we have a kind of external masterclasses coming up. And all sorts around that as well. One thing that's very interesting is the grant, obviously giving up to I think it's 20K in Rose tokens grants to get started, to help you build on the platform. But in addition to that, being able to get up to 3 million from Oasis as those kind of investment vehicles, as that kind of success. So actually Oasis will invest in the best teams, and hopefully all of them going through the accelerator will be one of those as well. And it's very modular. One thing to keep in mind here is that, let's say you're already a business expert, or you're very strong commercially and financially, and you need that tech help, or vice versa. Maybe you're very technical. You've been, writing smart contracts all your life, so to speak, and you need that business help. But if you think that there is support that you need around international export legals, and you don't think it's on the program, we can go out and we can source those experts for you with our kind of brand recognition and our brand name. So really exciting program. Really looking forward to getting a whole bunch of applications. We are having a roadshow of educational, informative events that will happen to be pretty good in any case, leading up to the big kickoff and launch day, which is in 2nd of February, 2022. So that date should stay in mind. That's 2/2/22. And that's when the program and those who have been accepted on it will start on that. Do we have Nassim with us as well? Nassim,
yes, I'm here, Alex. Hi, everyone.
MetaMind Labs, and also the and anything from your side of things.
Cool. Well, thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone. So my name is Nassim Olive, and I'm a partner at Eterna Capital and the co-founder of MetaMind Labs, which is an initiative and partnership from a collective of investment, acceleration, and advisory partners focused on the blockchain technology. And this initiative is really as a result of the growth of our very strong presence here in Europe, in particular, where we built a very strong ecosystem of investment firms, corporate partners, service providers, universities, student associations. And all of this is, with the aim to support the most innovative startups and entrepreneurs in the blockchain space. And today I'm very excited to have partnered with the Oasis Foundation team to launch this accelerator program, where over a period of 12 weeks, we'll be providing everything that Alex covered, which is for selected teams, end-to-end support, mentoring from high-profile mentors and industry leaders, workshops which are tailored to each of the startups' needs, strategy formulation, how to go to the market, and all of this in the mindset of being prepared for the demo day, which is where all this talent will be presenting their ideas to a bunch of investors, from angels all the way to VCs and more institutional investors within the space. So on that note, we're very excited to be supporting that program, and just looking forward to receiving applications, going through them, running through interviews, and obviously all the roadshows that we're planning across the recruitment period.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nassim. Yes, just do spread the word. More about that will be unveiled soon across the Oasis channels and other socials.
Yeah, thank you, Nassim, and thank you, Alex, for this nice presentation. So also thank you all the speakers for your presentations, and thank you, of course, community members for joining our town hall. So next slide, please. Remember that you can get involved today and by basically joining the conversation in the official community channels and following our social media for further updates as they happen. Also, next slide. Remember that you can become an Oasis ambassador, and you can also apply for grants with your interesting ideas for projects. So yeah, I think we're ready to do a quick round of Q&A. Let's see. Okay, here's an interesting one. Can you elaborate more on what you mean by native support for rollups? Is there a timeline on when there will be a tech breakdown for what Oasis means when they say they are the only layer 1 that natively supports rollups? Maybe Dawn, can you answer this one?
Sure. Yes. Thanks a lot for the question. So, right. So as I mentioned earlier, so Oasis architecture from the very beginning is designed with the separation of execution from consensus. And when you look at what rollup really does is, and also what the separation does is, at the consensus layer, essentially it commits to the transaction ordering. And then the execution layer performs the execution, and then the state transitions also committed, like the root hashes of the new states and so on, are also committed into the consensus layer. And in the Oasis architecture's design, the consensus layer then verifies the correctness of the computation results and the new root hash received from the Paradigm committees and so on. So essentially, by separating this execution from consensus, it removes the expensive computation from the consensus layer and allows it to be done at the execution layer, and at the same time, without sacrificing for the security and correctness. The consensus layer will do the verification for the correctness of the computation in the execution layer. And in the Oasis architecture, this verification can be done in different ways. In particular, we use the approach of essentially discrepancy detection and also then conflict resolution at the end. So essentially, this approach in spirit essentially achieves similar goals as rollups, but unlike in Ethereum, where the rollup, as I mentioned, is done as an afterthought, it's being developed to actually essentially remove the execution from the consensus layer due to the scalability limitation of the current Ethereum architecture design. Because of this, actually, if you look at the rollup solutions that's currently being done on Ethereum, many of them is actually all of them have a lot of challenges in the rollup solution, in the sense that a lot of the efforts has to be made to shoehorn this rollup solution, or essentially the separation of execution from a consensus, back into the existing Ethereum architecture. And so a lot of these rollup projects, they have put in a huge amount of effort to make this happen, because this was not designed in from the beginning, and hence it had to be shoehorned into an existing architecture on Ethereum. Whereas with Oasis, since this design architecture was designed from the very beginning, and hence the architecture is designed, as I mentioned, to be modular and to have this native support of separating execution from consensus, to essentially have this native support of rollup from day one of how the architecture is designed. So this is what I meant by it's Oasis essentially is the the first layer one, and right now the only layer one that actually supports natively this roll-up architecture. And as I mentioned, we have already written up a couple papers, and these papers will be released shortly. And also we have more papers in the works that further expands in this direction as well. So does that answer the question?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Don. Okay, let's see. We have some more questions. So the next one is, can you speak to future plans of further decentralization, and what is the plan for governance? Yeah, this is a good one. So since Mainnet launched almost a year ago, we've already increased the validator set from the initial set of just 80 validators to 110 just recently. And of course, any such increase in the amount of validator nodes makes the network more accessible to a wider set of validators and thus more decentralized. So while currently governance is basically limited to upgrading the consensus layer, in the future, we plan to expand the set of governance proposals that people can vote on. And additionally, with the introduction of more paradigms, we plan to also implement a governance module for the paradigm SDK, which will allow extending the governance features of the paradigms, which brings a lot of interesting possibilities because the paradigms are more flexible to implement and experiment with various governance policies. Okay, so hopefully this answered the question. Here's another one related to wallets. So are you going to make the wallet password unlockable so I can store my mnemonic somewhere safe? Yeah, I think today, maybe you can answer this one.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I think this is a great suggestion. So if you try the browser extension wallet, we have such a functionality there. So when you create, like you provision your wallet, it asks you for the password. So the password is then used to encrypt your mnemonic and store it in your browser's local storage. So we could do something similar for the web wallet, where if you use the same browser on the same computer, you would use the password to encrypt the mnemonic. And if you would go to the web wallet again, it would just ask you for the password and unencrypt the mnemonic, and voila, yeah. So yeah, this could work. You know what? I'll file an issue in the web wallet's GitHub repo so we can track this and see when it lands. And if there's anything else missing or not working, please let us know and file issues in the GitHub repos of the both wallets.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Okie dokie. Next one. Will the DEX and landing protocol be made by Oasis? And can you please clarify the vesting schedule? Okay, so yeah, Linda, maybe these two are for you.
Oh, hi folks. I'm Linda. I lead the ecosystem here at Oasis. I'm happy to answer those questions. I understand people are very curious about what's happening around DeFi on Oasis. So first of all, Oasis is a very much decentralized network, and DeFi dApps will be built, and some of the ones are built by our external teams, and we'll actually very much encourage all talented dev teams who are passionate about DeFi to build on Oasis network. So folks, if you are interested in building, please definitely reach out to us. And if you have friends and dev friends interested in building interesting DeFi dApps, please come to us. We're very much welcome you to build either our EVM paradigm, which is launching soon, or software paradigm, or some other paradigm will be launching next year. So about the vesting schedule. So we actually have been very transparent about our vesting schedule since day one when we launched the mainnet. So if you can go to our tokenomics primer, I think there's a pretty detailed table. You will see the full vesting schedule. I will not waste time and elaborating on that on this call. But yeah, it's very much on the website. You can just go to the tokenomics primer. So we're actually very, very excited about November because as we mentioned, I think your name mentioned, yes, we'll have the EVM paradigm launching by either end of October or early November. So that is actually a huge thing. So, we understand there are quite a few problems, with Ethereum, being very expensive, being low throughput, and our EVM paradigm will be cheap, very, very cheap on gas fees, very fast, and also very eco-friendly because we use proof of stake versus proof of work. So it's actually kind of present a very great opportunity for all those DeFi enthusiasts, traders, and people who are just generally curious about DeFi. This is definitely a great platform for people to try out, and we'll have DEX and lending protocols launching on the EVM paradigm. So we're actually very excited about Q4, especially around November. So we definitely believe, we have huge conviction that all those that provide, a great opportunity for our long-term Rose token holders, an opportunity way to actually use their Rose tokens besides staking what is currently available on the network. So so definitely very excited about November. Huge opportunity for Rose token holders to try different things out on the Oasis network. And if you have any devs or people interested in building Oasis, please definitely reach out to us. We'll definitely welcome all talented people, interested people, people who are interested in DeFi and enthusiastic about DeFi to build on Oasis network.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, for those answers. So here's another one, more Parcel flavored. Are there defined limitations for the documents as defined in the Parcel SDK, like size that can be uploaded or how many permissions can be defined and grants can be set? Vishwa, can you take this one?
Oh, absolutely. So there is no theoretical limit, folks, on the sizes of documents that can be uploaded. The only place where there will be a limitation is in the way in which the data is actually accessed within these VMs. So what Parcel uses are Google confidential VMs to be able to support secure computing. And these are backed by AMD-SCV technology at this point for trusted execution environments. But the memory is the one that's going to be holding, the memory of that particular VM is the one that's holding the data. The data is decrypted into encrypted VM memory. So that will be the limit. On the roadmap, we also want to bring in clusters of confidential VMs that can then work together for federated applications like federated learning, distributed learning, and so on and so forth. So when data becomes really very, very large, we can use something like MapReduce with clusters of confidential nodes. And there are no limits on the number of policies that can be set for a given data set. I hope that answers the question.
Cool. Okay, another one. I have a question about the accelerator model. Will it be in person or virtual or hybrid? Okay, this one is for Ekin.
Awesome, that's a great question. So it's mainly going to be virtual. We're still living COVID times, and it's a bit challenging, I think, to do all the traveling. So whereas many of the other accelerator programs, they have a physical location, we won't have that. But what we can do is have potentially, depending on how things go, maybe like smaller localized events. And that would be really great to be able to do that. So depending on how the COVID situation develops, we'll include those, but currently primarily it will be mainly virtual. But of course, we welcome applicants from any part of the world. So please feel free to apply. Yeah,
cool.
Hope that answers it.
Yeah. Okie doke. And another one. Could you talk about Oasis Ambassador Program for those who want to add value to Oasis and what incentive structures are involved? Provide some examples if possible. Okay, John, maybe you can speak a few words about this.
Oh, yes, I'd be very happy to. Our ambassador program is one size fits all, designed to be fun and global outreach. So anywhere you are in this world, if you've got something to add to the ecosystem, we'd love to have you. Marketing, community building, anything that you think is a skill for yourself, we'd love to have you. I'll go ahead and post 6.0, our current incentive program. We've got great ways to get into blockchain. It's designed to be an on-ramp for individuals that want to get into crypto, and we've done just that. It's provided a lot of great opportunities for our ambassadors, so we'd be happy to have you apply.
Okie doke. And yes, I think that's all of the questions. Cool. So thank you everyone for all the questions. We'll be sharing the recording and the deck with you after the call. And of course, we'll answer any more questions in our usual community channels. So yeah, thanks everyone. Exciting times ahead.
Yes. Onwards and upwards, folks. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everyone.
Thanks, everyone.